America, in the United States of America, 1 in 6 people is actually incarcerated in this country. Now, if you think about that, think about your high school. If you have like 100 people that you graduated high school with, that means 30 of them are actually in jail or prison right now. That should break your heart. The reason there's so many people in jail and prison isn't for what we think. We think that most people in jail and prisons are there because they're violent offenders. That's actually less than about 2 to 3% of the population that's in jail and prison. Most people in jail and prison are actually there for really small nuisance kind of complaints that they couldn't resolve, or that the courts actually made a lot worse by saying, you know what, we're going to give you this court date, but it's going to be so far out in advance that you may or may not remember that you have to go to court. The court's not going to call you to tell you that you have a court date tomorrow. If you forget that you have a court date tomorrow and you don't show up, there's going to be a warrant for your arrest. There are tons of people in jail and prison in America simply because there's a warrant for their arrest because they failure to appear for something really simple or minor. If you're a teenager that you jumped the stall at a subway station because you didn't have $1.25 in your pocket to actually go from Long Beach up to Los Angeles, then you probably don't have like $175 to pay court fees to actually go to court. So you necessarily wouldn't be excited about going to court, or you probably wouldn't put it on your calendar so you'd actually remember to go to court. But there's people in jail for something as simple as they jumped a toadstool at a subway station. People in prison for something similar to that. There's people in prison because they stole something that considered them a felony, but instead of doing restitution, so they'd have to pay back $200 or $300 of whatever it was that they stole, we send them to prison or jail, which actually costs at least $300 a day to house them. So how is that benefiting anybody? It's costing society a lot more money. But no, there's people in jail and prison, the only reason they're there is because they're nonconformists. They don't necessarily obey whenever somebody tells them to jump or tells them to cough or tell them to sit up straight. They're artists. They're people who think differently. There's a lot of people in prison for stuff that they shouldn't be in prison for. And I'm not saying that people that are the worst of the worst, because there's people out there that are just, they're evil. But that's not the majority of the people. It's not. That's not the majority of the people in the prison population. The majority of people in the prison population shouldn't be there. I don't smoke marijuana, but I don't really care if somebody does smoke marijuana. There's probably, I would say, anywhere from like 5 to 10% of the populations in prisons are there for something as simple as they had marijuana on them. Why is that benefiting anybody? It's costing the average community $300 a day to house that person. So how is that benefiting anybody? It's not. You know, if you're going to put people in prison, put people in prison who are truly out to do harm. Somebody who's molested children. We have priests that have molested hundreds of children who aren't in prison. There's no reason for that. If you're going to put somebody in jail for something as simple as smoking a joint, then why is it that somebody who can molest a child is walking free? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. There's people who can steal something at Walmart and end up in jail, but there's bankers who could embezzle millions of dollars who don't go to jail. How in the hell does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense. And the white-collar criminals, if they actually do go to jail, they're going to go more to a jail that's designed like a hotel than an actual jail. So jails and prisons are absolutely designed to control certain segments of the population. It has nothing to do with crime and punishment, unlike what the politicians tell you. You know, every time there's an election, candidates always want to be, I'm the crime and punishment candidate. Well, I'm actually for the candidate that's not crime and punishment. I'm for the actual candidate that says, I want it to be fair. We're going to go after the people that are real threats and not the people that aren't real threats. I don't want somebody to go to jail because they had a busted taillight and they didn't have the money to fix it, nor did they have the money to pay the court costs, but they're in jail because they had a busted taillight. But I tell you what, I would love it if cops would actually go after rapists and child molesters. But they don't do that. They don't do that because that actually takes police work. And most police don't want to do police work. They leave that to the detectives. The world would be a better place if we actually cared about the things that matter instead of the things that don't matter. It's just like somebody being drunk and acting stupid and saying something stupid. Everybody on this planet has had to deal with a drunken asshole at least once in their life. Everybody. It's best to just ignore them and walk away. It's not always make a federal offense of it, charge them with tons of crimes. It could just be they're an asshole because the circumstances made them an asshole and maybe they're going to become a better person. I don't necessarily need them to go to jail because they're an idiot. If anything, I might have a little bit of sympathy because they're an idiot because I don't know what's going on in their life. I don't know that they never had a chance to get a decent education. I don't know that somebody in their life didn't die of a horrific car accident. I don't know if they can't afford medical coverage and they are like living in pain and in misery. I don't know that. And I shouldn't have to like worry about those people being in jail and prison. But the people that should be in jail and prison, the police departments need to start caring about those people. They do. The people who are out there actively doing damage, they should be going after. People who are molesters, people who are traffickers of children, people who are like murderers, they need to go after those people. They don't need to go after somebody who didn't make a left-hand turn signal whenever they stopped at the stoplight. That does not matter. And people act like those people don't go to jail. There are tons of people like that in jail in America. There's thousands. And there's thousands of people like that in every state in America for something as minor as they had a busted tail light, they didn't have money for the toll on the subway. Something as simple as that got them put in jail or prison. There's people who stole a t-shirt that was worth $14 and they're in jail or in prison. And everybody's like, that doesn't happen. That happens every day in America. It happens every day in America. And we have to change it. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping society. People always act like we have such a high standard of living here. We don't, because we are so taxed, paying for crap that does not benefit us. You know, wars, unnecessary wars, that doesn't help me. You putting people in prison and jails that don't need to be there, that doesn't help me. People act like that doesn't have a domino effect. That absolutely has a domino effect. All of these things make sure that the people who are middle class and people who are low income will never get above middle class and low income. Because guess what? The people who are benefiting from those things being in place are the super rich or the extreme elite in this country. They don't want it to change because they're making billions. They're not making millions. They're making billions of dollars off the prison industrial complex. They are making billions of dollars off of the military industrial complex. It has to change. It has to change.